Today's episode of Daily Detroit is brought to you in part by Castalia Cocktails. Don't just drink cocktails, experience them. With matching scents and knowledgeable bartenders to guide you, it's a great experience. Try one of their pairings or feel free to go off the menu with an adventure for your senses. The menu both tells you how boozy a drink is, and there is a full non-alcoholic lineup, taking care to give you a top-notch sensory experience no matter how you'd like to drink. Whether it's the intimate indoor bar with less than 20 seats or on the patio outside, enjoying the best Detroit has to offer, Castalia is a great spot for a night out, a drink after dinner, or a date. They're open to all Wednesdays through Saturdays from 5 to 11 p.m. with a possibility for unique experiences for small groups anytime with a reservation. You can learn more at CastaliaCocktails.com. That's CastaliaCocktails.com. Make sure to support the businesses that support us and stop on by. Hello, everyone, and welcome to your Daily Detroit. It is Friday, August 18th, 2023. I'm Jer Stays, sharing what to know and where to go in Metro Detroit. Joining me, as he does every Friday, like clockwork, it's always a wonderful thing, Mr. Devon O'Reilly from west of Woodward. How are you?
I am great, Jer. I don't know. I think I'm just west of Woodward, but, these days, if I'm in the office, I am basically smack dab in the middle of Detroit.
You know that whole thing with the Campus Martius and underneath where there was that whole flagstone or whatever they called it?
Oh, I know, but I think it's a really cool spot to remind people that exists. There is literally a center point of the entire city that sits outside of Park Bar and Restaurant that basically demarcates the absolute middle. Like when we talk about the spokes of the city of Detroit, all the spokes center in this particular point and go off from there.
Right. That's what it's center of. The geographic center of the city is like somewhere out here by, my neighborhood somewhere into the west. But yeah.
Right. But from an Augustus Woodward planning standpoint, this is where Detroit starts.
Yeah. And that plan is interesting because it to me, really set something interesting for the city going forward. And it's interesting to see, too, where those spokes kind of adjust a little bit. I didn't realize this. I read this in a book recently, and I'm going to have the author on soon. But this idea that actually Grand Circus was going to have a bunch more spokes other than Campus Martius because it was near where a bunch of the actual, historic paths were. It was a little bit further out. But Campus Martius is where everything got adjusted to.
Right, yeah. And Grand Circus was also going to be double the size. Now it's like a half circle. It was going to be a full circle park, and you're going to have, like you said, the additional spokes. So crazy how things happen. Detroit could have looked a lot different.
It definitely could, especially if they kept that plan going. Anyway, let's stop talking about the past and start talking about now and the future. What are you drinking?
Well, Jer, I'm drinking something related to a little vacation that I took. With myself and the wife and the baby, our first family vacation, as it were, up to Traverse City. But Jer, if it's a vacation and I'm involved, we're still going to hit some wineries, some bars, some distilleries. So we did all the fun stuff. We just dragged the baby along with us.
Well, I think that's the way to go if you can.
If you can, and she was very, for the most part, amenable to it. But I wanted to talk a little bit about a particular place I went, Grand Traverse Distillery. So I think the first thing I want to mention is we should not confuse this with Traverse City Whiskey Company. Traverse City Whiskey Company is probably known better. They're bigger. They have an outpost in Ferndale, for instance, and I've been to that tasting room, and I've even talked about drinking their stuff on here, and it's good. It's perfectly reasonable, fine whiskey if you find yourself drinking it. Nothing wrong with it at all. But this Grand Traverse Distillery that I kind of stumbled upon on Main Street there, where they have a kind of a tasting room, I was really, really impressed. I got to taste. They do a really good job of kind of giving you different tastes. I tasted about 6 of their different whiskeys, and one in particular that spoke to me that I had to just grab a full bottle of was their Isles O' Rye. It doesn't hurt that it has O' Rye in the end of it with an apostrophe.
I was about to be like, this could be a Halloween costume for you. Devon O'Rye and you're just a bottle.
We might be onto something here. There's a few different threads to pull, but what really spoke to me about this is if you listen to the show enough and talk about stuff I drink, I love Scotch. I love a really kind of a strong peaty flavor to my whiskey, and this is a locally grown rye and peated malted barley from Scotland that have kind of been joined forces with some rye spice, and so it's a whiskey that almost drinks like an Islay Scotch, hence the Isles of Rye. Now, Islay Scotch, for those who don't know, are tend to be the much more peatier, earthier, smokier Scotches. So this was just right up my alley in terms of kind of scratching me where I itch with a really nice, smooth whiskey, but also that kind of smoky finish.
All I can think of is Anchorman and Scotchy Scotch.
Yeah, Jer. When I saw the movie, I don't think I had tasted Scotch really yet, so I still didn't understand what Ron was particularly talking about in his love for Scotch, but as someone, 20 years later, I totally get it.
Well, I am in the non-alcoholic lane, but a tasty one nonetheless.
All right, what do you got, Jer?
I have from the congregation the Orange Spice Espresso Tonic.
That sounds like a drink.
It does, and it feels like a drink in so many ways because it's kind of zhuzhed up. I do like more darker flavors. So like at Red Hook, they used to have the black tonic, which would be espresso and tonic water. So this is kind of a riff on the black tonic concept, which is a pretty popular concept, but it has kind of their house-made orange spice kind of infusions, if you will, and it just adds another level of complexity to it. So it feels kind of drinky without being a drink.
I like that. I mean, I certainly appreciate something that, like you said, it kind of drinks like a cocktail. It has some flavors that remind you of a cocktail. Also has the caffeine of an espresso, which is always great. I love that bonus. A little kick, a little pep there. So that sounds delightful, Jared. And we love the congregation. So I'm looking forward to trying this out, or maybe even trying to make it on my own.
Well, here's the thing, and it's been throughout the summer, and I think you could call it a summer drink, but I also think it kind of reads fall as well.
I think you're absolutely right, Jared. I think this could easily transition into a fall drink. You could probably do. You can do it cold. I think the tonic part you kind of have to do cold, right? Of course. But I could also see this as a warm variation on a nice fall drink too.
I have to admit, I feel kind of guilty. The other day, it was like 70 degrees and felt a little fall-like, and I was like, well, maybe I could do like a house-made pumpkin spice or something like that. I was almost cheering for fall, and then I caught myself, and I feel like a traitor.
Jared, no, I totally get you. It's just one of those you got to be careful what you wish for, A nice little dip into fall is nice, but next week is going to be like 90. So summer is going to come right back at us and remind us it is not finished with Michigan and Detroit yet.
100%. I saw your Instagram, and I see that you've been someplace that I have not been able to go. And frankly, I haven't seen much. I've heard little rumblings and that a couple of friends have been there, but there hasn't been a big push that this place has opened.
Yeah, Jared, I'm kind of like excited to talk about this for a couple different reasons. I really, I was almost kind of invigorated going back to, for those that listened or even read for a long time, followed along with Daily Detroit. You and I started first connecting and talking when I would just wander around the city and like find places and we would talk about them. And this situation kind of reminds me of that because in the Siren Hotel, there was a wonderful place, Carl's Diner, that had closed some time ago. I think maybe last year at some point. It was a great diner on the second floor of the Siren Hotel, breakfast, lunch, dinner concept, really awesome little retro type of place. I loved it. It closed, very sad. And recently, I don't know how I came across it here, but there was some post that kind of mentioned this Ash Bar, and then I saw an article about it afterwards, and I was like, wow, wait a second. So this shuttered Carl's concept reopened, and the space is now open again. And I kind of just had to wander my way, and in true fashion, I just went over there this past week, just wandered over, or thought maybe I could grab lunch if they're open. Sure enough, they are open, full service, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's called Ash Bar, Jer, but I think it's a little bit of a misconception because for all intents and purposes, this is like a diner restaurant. They'll serve you from 8 a.m. to midnight, basically. Not only that, they have brunch on the weekends, and they have a really great happy hour from 3 to 6, which love a good happy hour. Their aperitivo happy hour. So this place, I'm like, I've been once for lunch, tried some of their food. I got one of their sandwiches, which is it's a little French style. I would say if there's a theme, it's probably French themed. But they have all your classic cocktails. They have martinis on draft, ice cold martinis on draft, which is really cool. I don't know anyone else who does that around here. And then all sorts of different sandwiches, salad, charcuterie. I don't know, Jared. I think I have found kind of a new favorite place.
So this is going to be on, I want to say, Broadway over there, kind of in the same area as the Opera House, the Wurlitzer building. That's the Siren Hotel and all that stuff. And to be clear, I don't think this is, although it is opened in this space, it is not Carl's reopened. It is a new concept in that space. There was some drama around Carl's. Actually, we were the first to report that they were closing Carl's.
And I shed a tear.
Yeah, and but it's interesting to see them turn the page with this, and it seems like you really enjoyed it.
I did, Jerry. I mean, I only got to kind of get a little bit of a lunch taste, but they've got a great kind of a small beer selection. I definitely would say they're more cocktail forward, more aperitif forward. But they have, again, something for just about any time of day. Like you could go in the morning and get egg and cheese sandwich or fruit plate or pancakes. You could go at lunch, and then of course you could go at dinner and get some things to nosh on. It's a really eclectic menu, really cool. I would highly recommend checking it out. It's open every day because it's in a hotel. So really cool. If you had been to Carl's, the vibe is not too different. It's a little more upscale than Carl's was. Carl's was kind of like a really like 50s diner. This is a little bit elevated, but you would definitely recognize most of the decor and the ambiance is kind of Carl's. But Jared, if there's one thing I love, it's a type of place that you don't have to worry about what time you're going there or when you're able to. I like a place you can just kind of wander into at any time of day, and they've got all the things you need. And especially when that place is right downtown, and Ash Bar has it. So that's going to be, I'll definitely give a report on checking it out for dinner or happy hour in the near future.
Now, I want to mention something because listeners are always like, oh, I'm looking for somewhere affordable to be or whatever in the city. And this came across my feed from the East Jefferson Development Corporation, which is like the nonprofit arm that for East Jefferson and Jefferson Chalmers. And they've been having that project called the Marlboro, which is literally across a parking lot from Yellow Light Donuts on the east side. It's more on the inside of Jefferson. So it's not on the riverside. It's on the inside. And it's an apartment building. And apparently they have market rate spots for 1, 2, and 3 bedroom spots for between $900 to $1,250 a month for market rate. So market rate means unsubsidized. So since a lot of people have mentioned, hey, I want to be in the city and I want to do something that's a bit more affordable, this is a place where you could literally like look out your window depending on the apartment and look at a donut and get a donut or a sandwich. And you're just you've got all the things with Jefferson Chalmers. And then you also can get to Grosse Pointe Park and all the things that are there. You're just a few blocks away from that. So something to put out there. I just know listeners have been asking like, hey, it's great that you talk about a place that's $2 million, but that's not going to be me. So when I saw this come across my feed, and I'm actually going to be having a reporter from Planet Detroit on the show next week to talk about all the things happening in the Canal District on the other side of Jefferson next week. But I just wanted to highlight this one because people are interested in living in Detroit and Metro Detroit, and they're looking for kind of more affordable options. So there you go. It's on Marlboro there and East Jefferson.
Yeah, great little spot there. And you're kind of off in a neighborhood a little bit, which is great living. If someone's interested in that, it'd be really cool to kind of live there. Again, you're close to a lot of cool things. Yellow Light Donuts, for example, which is a fantastic area you're over on Jefferson on the east side. So great location, great to see. I love to kind of highlight the fact that Detroit has options for pretty much any budget. It's just depending on what you're into.
Real quick, we are starting to plan our finalist for Best News and Politics Podcast Party. Email me dailydetroit@gmail.com if you've got some suggestions on where to go. This is something that, Devon, you promised the people. And, it delivered. So we got to make it happen. I'm thinking this is going to happen in September.
I have to make good. I talked a big game, and we are in the finals. So, yes, we have to give the people what they want. We have to have ourselves a little party. I have to avail myself of the listeners, and I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, we'll make this happen in September. It's a good time for everybody. I got a lot going on. We got a lot going on. But it'll be fun to do something in the near future.
Do we want to hear more from the people, Devon?
Always good.
All right. So Michael wrote in about the auto show, wondering how big it's going to be, how relevant it's going to be, that it's coming. Should we do are we going to do a preview, that kind of thing? And Devon, I think for sure we should get somebody on this time as opposed to us kind of yakking about it. I think there's a lot of things that are coming up for this year that I feel like maybe you know somebody.
Yeah, the auto show is evolving, and I think it's important to kind of like recognize. Let's talk, let's level set about what it is going to be, what it's not going to be. The auto show is moving from being, this place to unveil vehicles, to a place to kind of experience the future technology of vehicles. And I think that's different, and people are going to have to get used to it because, for a multitude of reasons, it's not like this is going to be the place where, Ford or General Motors or even Toyota unveil this, fantastic new concept car, the world premiere. Like, that's not what this is anymore. What you're really going to go see more of is the technologies, and it's going to be more interactive. It's not going to be walking around a show floor as much and just looking at cars. It's going to be sitting in them, riding in them, going on simulations of what the next technology is going to be on EVs and autonomous vehicles. It's really going to be a downtown party, Jared. That's what I see it evolving into. So kind of the silver lining is what you'll see is it'll start to branch way outside of the Huntington Place footprint and really be a time for our city to kind of come alive, have parties, have all sorts of different side things going on. But it's just going to be a different show. So those old school kind of gearheads, who are used to an auto show where we just do world premieres and concept cars from all the biggest brands, I think those days might be gone. But I think there's some really cool stuff to talk about that it will be, and we'll get into more of that in upcoming episodes.
I think for sure we can get somebody, I think, from there, kind of what they're thinking and all that, because it's still a big impact, and it's an interesting thing to change it to a more warmer weather situation versus the dead of January. And those changes have had a lot of impact on local businesses, and putting it in the fall instead of January, like, it really creates a little bit of like a lull in January, but also gives people a chance to reset and do some things,
Yeah, no, I do think doing it in better weather in the fall, kind of late summer, early fall in Michigan. I mean, it's our best time. It's our time to come alive. So if nothing else, we picked the right time. I think January is kind of a dead time, and I get why when the auto show was really something that pulled people in from all over the world, that you could stick it in January because it didn't matter. But now that it's not that anymore, I think it's much smarter to plan it during a time when people can kind of really enjoy the outdoors, enjoy the city, and kind of be kind of an indoor-outdoor type of thing. So I applaud and I agree with moving it to where it's at now.
Well, we got a ton of feedback in different areas. So I'm gonna kind of flip through a few of these things. Let's go with Dan. So you guys talk about car-free life a lot. Have you lived in Metro Detroit without a car? I think maybe it's related to me and you, Devon, this one. Dan wants to know our tips for living car-free or car light in Detroit or Metro Detroit. What are some ups and things also that can suck? So, Dan, you may be newer with us, but if you've listened to the show way back in the archives, you'll realize that I believe both of us, Devon, have lived car-free and car light in Metro Detroit.
Absolutely. 2016 to 2021, I was basically either car free or car light. I definitely did a tour living in downtown and midtown without a car at all. And then for a while, my wife and I shared one car. So totally done that. And honestly, I didn't really have any problems. It really wasn't that difficult. I mean, there are some things you have to pay for more. I mean, I recall, obviously, you're going to utilize transportation services more. Obviously, buses, and queue line and transportation like that, but even Ubers and Lyfts. But as you're thinking about it from a cost standpoint, it's still so much cheaper than actually having a car. So you tell yourself, yeah, I might have to spend $30 to Uber to a grocery store that I really want to go to,
or maybe to a friend's place, right?
Yeah, or to a friend's place or whatever. But I never had any issues getting what I needed. And also because you can order so much stuff online. So like if you're in Detroit and in that area, between walkability, bikeability, I know we talk a lot about how we're not some other great cities, which I know we're not. We're not Seattle or Boston when it comes to that. But you can actually get a lot of things and get to a lot of places if you're intuitive enough and kind of really work all the different transportation systems. So yes, Jer, both of us have had some really good experiences doing it. Having a family now, it became just a little too difficult. But no, I had no qualms about it. It was good to do. I'm glad I have the stories and the the understanding of how to do it certainly helps if you're living in a opportune location that's near a lot of stuff. But yeah.
I mean, I'm still doing car light, and so I guess I'll go more direct with some like really practical things on the ground. I think that you got to be really careful about what neighborhood you live in and where you live in. Meaning, you need to be near a major you need to be near one of the major bus lines. You need to be near Woodward, like one of the 10 that run all the time. I think that's crucial. I think another thing, this is different than a few years ago. Mogo has really expanded, and Mogo, you get one of those yearly passes. It's like less than $100. Yeah, you're going to want to own your own bike, but you know what else is nice? Parking your bike somewhere and not having to worry if it's going to get ganked. Like, you can just go ahead, take that bike wherever you are. You don't have to think about it, right? You don't have to think about, did I take my bike there? You can just go somewhere on the queue line or on a bus and then go back on the Mogo. So it gives you a lot of flexibility with that. So if you're open and the weather's in your favor, I think that the Mogo, it's expanded so much. There's now like 3 stations out by me in the north end. There's stuff into Ferndale. I would love to do a thing before the end of the season, going from here into Ferndale and those areas and kind of doing that little jump and seeing how that works. I think so that's cool. Making sure that you have multiple options is super key to all this. I think obviously budget for Uber or Lyft to get out to different areas so that you're still pretty mobile. I would also say that you're gonna deal with some like perception things when you deal with people who aren't used to city life. I think that there's a lot of people, especially if you deal with folks in the suburbs, that are going to be like, well, if you don't use a car or if you share a car, are you less than? And that's something that I definitely ran into, even though I was working downtown. I had a corporate job. I did pretty well. It's totally possible. I think car light is far easier. I think that if you're a couple and car light, way, way, way easier because there's so many things to do around. So like if your partner wants to go out and do something out in wherever, I don't know, Canton or something, you got plenty of stuff to do around you if you still feel like you want to go out. Like I think it can be done. You just got to be really smart about where you are and having access to those main lines. You got to be very intentional with where you situate yourself.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest takeaway, Jer, and you're 100% right. If you're gonna do the car light or especially no car, strategically figuring out like living near transportation or living near at least some amenities goes such a long way, and it makes it so much easier and makes it doable. So that's kind of the balance. Is I don't want to try and tell people that I know that sometimes people don't have cars for different reasons, and certainly hopefully you're saving a little money by not having a car, which maybe allows you, and this was my case, Jerry, is not having a car and having that hundreds of dollars a monthly expense allowed me to put a little bit more in the apartment pot. And so I was able to kind of move a bit closer to Woodward, to amenities, to downtown. So that was kind of my trade-off. And if you can do that, that's definitely the way to go.
Oh, 100%. And here's the other thing. I know that a lot of people are into localism, who are into being like car free or car light. You just got to make peace with Amazon or something like that, because that's going to be a lifesaver. Like with my dog or whatever. Like and actually it was actually easier. It was just worth it.
You can't. Yeah. You gotta pick your battles for sure, Jared. You got to pick your battles. You got to embrace one or the other, unfortunately.
Yeah, and if you've got more questions on this, go ahead and feel free to email me back on this one. I'm glad to answer anybody's questions. It's not for everybody, and it is, but I do think that it is possible with some planning. And
I agree, Jared. We're here to help if anyone needs any additional tips.
And we are done for today. I hope people enjoyed our Friday episode and, of course, all of our episodes on Daily Detroit. I know it's August. A lot of people are on vacation. So everyone who is with us, thank you so very much. I hope we're informing and entertaining you a little bit. As always, dailydetroit@gmail.com. We've got so much feedback to get through. We could do a whole week of feedback, Devon.
There's always something new to talk about, Jared, as we kind of showed today.
Thank you so much for listening. With that, I'm Jared Stays.
I'm Devon O'Reilly.
Remember that you are somebody, and we'll see you around Detroit.